John with ProCraps here. Today talking about practice rigs and practice table setup. So I think to be good at any endeavor, whether it's craps or blackjack or bowling or golf or baseball, whatever it is, you've got to practice. And I think you got to practice and set yourself up to practice with the tools that it's going to take to make you better at the things that you want to get better at or need to improve upon. So I've set up a practice rig that works for me, given a couple of constraints. One is what I want to work on, which is mainly betting, strategy building and strategy practice. And two is dice control. I wanted to make sure I had a rig that I could use to practice throwing the dice. Now, my other kind of constraint is I don't have a lot of room. So where I'm set up down here, I can't fit a 12 or a 14 foot giant craps table, which at first was kind of a bummer, but in hindsight, it actually is a good thing for me because not being the tallest person in the world, I didn't want to spend all day sort of hunched over the high rails of a craps table and lean down to do my work. That felt like that was going to be, I don't know, just not as fun, right? What I wanted to do was be able to get over here and just lean in as work in a comfortable fashion. So I think by having a half-size table, number one, makes it so that, you know, I've got easy wingspan to kind of reach things. It also, because it's only a half length rail, I can get to things a whole lot easier and be a little faster in my work. The third thing that this does for me is lets me make it a modular system. So this rail, this end board here is actually removable. So I'll show you in a little bit how I can do that and use this same setup that I've got here to work either side of the table for hard or bouncier surfaces when I'm working on dice control. So I've made myself, I think, a pretty cool modular system based on a couple of things, right? Not having the room, number one, not wanting to bend over a rail, number two, and just wanted to work in a comfortable environment that I could quickly transform my setup to work on the things that I wanted to work on and need to work on the most. So that's how this thing got started with. And again, I'm really happy with how this part of it turned out. I'm gonna do a whole tear down here in a little while and show you how I built it. But for now, let's take a look at how this fits into the grander scheme of the room here, what else I do, because I've got a second practice table that I will show you here in a second that's designed to be the launching station for when I do practice dice control over here. So let me walk over there and show you that one. Here's a wider look at the room, and you'll see that I've got the two tables that are kind of side by side, and they do work in tandem for me. So first and foremost, we'll take a look at the smaller table here. So this is my betting practice table, and like the large table, I've got it set on the furniture slider so I can move it around with pretty much a finger or so. I bring this thing actually next to my work desk all the time. So it just slides up next to me and I can sit in my chair and work. What I do with this table a lot is just work on strategies. So you'll see it's got the same custom layout that my big table has. So it's got everything I need on it to kind of work bets. And again, it's about 30 wide and about 20 deep or so. So it's small, but I don't need a lot when I'm working on strategies. And I'm really not caring about rolling dice and everything else. I'm just kind of getting a feel for how the chips can move as I'm working on things. And then I'll transition to the big table later on. So it serves that purpose really well. I love that it has a little shelf on it. I keep my coffee up here. My computer's usually up there as well. So as I'm taking notes and that kind of thing. I probably spend most of my time here actually working on strategies and chip motion and that kind of thing. It's really been kind of a godsend because again, I can just sit next to my regular work desk and kind of slide this thing up and work with it. So for that level alone, it's been one of the best tools that I've got. And frankly, this was all I had for the longest time. I didn't have the big table till recently. And I was able to use this to work every strategy that I've got using random rolls. So it's actually really, really solid for that. Now, playing along with the big table, this fills another role for me. So both tables, now the camera angle doesn't do a great job of showing this, but they're actually both set to the same height. They're both at 28 inches, which is, as you know, a perfect casino table deck height. So this little table actually doubles for me as a shooting station. So I'm gonna bring this over here, and this, I'll put it in front of the camera, this is our shooting rail. So this is set to, I'm on top of the chip here, I guess. This is set to 11 inches tall, which again is the same height as it is at the casino. So I can, when I'm betting or when I'm throwing dice, I can reach over this and throw dice from the same position I would throw it at the casino. So this actually butts up next to the bigger table. And when I pull it off about 6 inches or so, this ends up being between 7 and 8 feet from that back wall, which is exactly stick left 1 or stick left 2. So when I'm here, and again, because I've got the actual casino underlayment and the same casino felt on top that I use on my regular table, this becomes the perfect tossing station. I just grab, like I said, I usually set up all my dice ahead of time. And I can just sit here and sort of roll shots into the back wall here from this. And again, because it's on movers and I made it nice and light, very easy to just turn it in place. And now I can work the right side. So if I get stuck at stick right 1, I'm able to practice from this side as well and work my throws from here. I can even simulate working from the end. So I can turn it the other way and throw from the end rail as well. So this gives me a lot of modularity in terms of how I practice and how it works with that bigger table as both a shooting station and then again as a way to just work bets. So this little table here has really served us pretty well in terms of doing double duty of a betting table and a launch pad for my dice control. So that's actually really, really good. Now the big table we talked about before, also very modular. So what I'm going to do here is show you how I move this around. So I'm going to make a little bit of room here and show you that this comes off. Again, it's just sitting on there. It's the exact size of the table. So we're going to slide this over. And on this half of the table, as noted, this is the bouncy half. So if I come down here, and again, normally I'll have my betting table or my the launch table down this end as well. But if I'm going to practice against the bouncier surface, now the backboard's on the other side of the table and I can just wing them in here and you'll see that's literally a trampoline as opposed to the hardwood side over here. So I get to practice both on a really bouncy surface and a really hard flat surface depending on what I want to work on without a lot of effort. I just move that top rack or the backboard from one side to the other, makes it super easy for me to work. So this way I get all my work in, right? I can work on live betting on the small table or on the big table. So how do I determine what I'm going to work on where? It's pretty simple for me really. I use the small table, again, just to work quick strategy. So I can just sit here and I'll roll my Yahtzee dice on this table and just sort of practice how do chips roll while I'm working a strategy here. So this goes to the 8, we get paid on this one, and I just kind of work and see how am I making money or not through different bets, and if I want to tweak things, okay, let's try that again with 10 or whatever else. This makes it simple. I don't need the full setup. Once I've determined in small scale over practice sessions what I think is going to work on the big table, that's when I transition to the big table, and I'll do the exact same betting setup on the larger table, but what I'll do different is actually roll dice. Again, the small table, I'm using Yahtzee dice because it's so small, I have to get dice with the rounded edges so that it'll work. Then I'll come to the big table and I'll run actual dice out there and move actual chips, that was a 4, right? Actual chips into the right spots with real throws on a real table size, right? So that I bring my small scale practice into large scale once I determined over here that I know I want to try it out for real with actual dice on a real table. So this kind of expands my testing that I do on the little table. And like I said, when I do that, I bring the rail up and I use it and I throw like I'm really throwing at a casino. So between the two tables, I have a really good, small scale, figure out what I'm going to do, large scale, let's see if it really works. And it works out for me so far pretty darn well. Another benefit of the big table being built on the undercarriage of a raisable desk is that I can raise it. So a couple reasons for that. One is it's not always fun to be bent all the way over on a 28-inch deck when you're doing work. A lot of times I'll run strategies that are just too big for the small table. Like if I want to run kind of an A/B test to see how two strategies work against each other, I'd like to have more room up here in the box. So for that reason, I'll use the big table for this. And what I'll do is I'll raise it up a little bit. Again, if I'm going to be here for hours and I'm not throwing dice where I need to have it at regulation height, then I'll raise it up. Again, just to make it easier on myself to kind of work, at a more reasonable standing height, I guess, right? The point of having a standing desk at all, it's better for posture, it's better for lots of things. And in this case here, it makes bedding way easier when it's just right here, kind of at arm's length. Another benefit to that is I don't just play craps, okay? We play blackjack, we do baccarat, we do other things here as well. So what I'll do oftentimes is take all this down and put a mat up here. So check this out. Once we take all the craps materials off the table and I've got it raised up, the benefit that this serves me as well is that I can run other games on here. So for example, here's a layout that's almost 6 foot by 3 foot. This is a blackjack layout from Bullets Gaming. Now I use this to practice dealing blackjack and of course playing blackjack. It's a great game you got to practice a lot to get really good at it for card counting and that kind of thing. So it's great to have this thing at dealer height to play this. The whole family practices that. We've got baccarat as well. Not yet for roulette, but I can certainly put a roulette wheel up here and practice roulette betting. So the table being modular, raisable, lowerable, and the right size means I can practice multiple things at the proper height. So I'm getting a lot of bang for my buck here by doing the raisable table, and I think the 6 foot by 3 foot is just the right size for all the things that I'm trying.
So that's a high-level overview of our practice rig setup. I'll do a couple more videos where I really break down the parts here. I actually film myself putting all this together so you can see a video of the pieces and parts in the construction phase of how it all went together. Actually, it's pretty easy. And I'll also do a few videos where I show you more in depth of how I use each of the two tables more in detail and in a daily practice type setup. So anyway, thanks again for watching. If you've got your own really cool practice rig like this, love to see pictures of it. Leave us comments, link to videos, whatever you've got. If you're running a YouTube channel of your own, I'd love to see the behind the scenes. I'm sure everybody else would too. It's really interesting to see how folks are getting their daily practice in. So with that said, thanks again, and we'll see you at the tables.